His boots clanged against the metal ramp as he stepped off the human shuttle and onto the alien platform. The air was thick with an unfamiliar hum, vibrating softly through his chest, as if the city itself was alive. Everywhere he looked, the alien capital stretched in impossible shapes, towers taller than mountains, bridges that curved through the sky, and lights that pulsed like hearts in slow, steady rhythm. The colors were strange, almost glowing, and he felt like he had walked into a dream painted by someone who did not understand reality. He swallowed hard and tried to keep his composure. He had trained for months for this mission, but nothing had prepared him for the way the city made him feel small. A mix of awe and fear twisted in his stomach. He felt like an intruder in a world that was not built for him. A group of officials approached, their skin shimmering softly under the city lights. They moved with a grace could barely imitate, their steps silent and smooth. One of them, a tall figure with faint golden markings on her face, stepped forward. Her voice was calm but commanding. She said, "You have been assigned a partner. This is our tradition. Please follow me." Blinked, a partner. He had not expected this. He had been briefed about cultural assignments and social protocols, but nothing had mentioned this. "A partner?" he asked, his voice shaky. "Yes," the official said, her expression unreadable. "This is standard for all visitors. Your partner will guide you, help you, and connect with you. It is part of our ways." Before he could ask more questions, a figure stepped out of the crowd. She moved like water, every gesture smooth and effortless. She was taller than had imagined, her skin glowing faintly under the city's lights. Her eyes were large and luminous, and when she looked at him, felt a strange pull, as if the world had narrowed down to only her. She smiled. It was the kind of smile that made his chest tighten, warm and confident at the same time. "Human," she said softly, almost teasing, "you have been assigned a lover, and it is me." Froze, he had no idea what to say. Assigned a lover, on his first day in an alien world. His training had never covered this scenario. Panic rose, his thoughts scrambling. He wanted to run, to hide somewhere safe, but he couldn't look away from her. There was something in her gaze, something curious and kind, that held him in place. I don't understand," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't ask for this. I don't know anything about this kind of connection." The alien tilted her head, her smile softening. "I know, you are human. It is natural to be confused. We do not force, but we guide. You are not alone in this." She extended her hand, glowing faintly as she did so. Hesitated, then placed his hand in hers. The warmth was unexpected. It was not just heat, but a feeling that seemed to reach into him, steadying the chaos of his thoughts. He could feel a strange, gentle pulse, almost like a heartbeat, that seemed to match his own. "Come with me," she said, leading him through the glowing streets. As they walked, she explained bits of her world. The way the city's lights were alive, the rituals of the people, the importance of connection. Listened, trying to absorb it all, but his mind kept drifting to the simple fact. She had chosen him, or at least the council had assigned her to him, and now she was here, glowing and smiling, reaching for him. Everywhere they passed, people stared, curious but respectful. Felt like a child being led through a grand palace, unsure if he belonged. He stumbled a few steps behind her, trying to match her graceful stride, feeling painfully clumsy. "Do not worry about fitting in," she said, glancing back at him with a teasing grin. "You are human. That alone is enough to make you special." His chest tightened. He didn't know if he felt proud, scared, or both. The city seemed endless, the future unknown, and yet there was a thread connecting him to her, fragile but unmistakable. By the time they reached the chamber where he would stay, realized something. He had come to an alien planet as a stranger, expecting only to observe, to learn, to survive. But now, he had been placed at the center of a bond he didn't understand, with a being he could neither predict nor ignore. His heart raced with anticipation and fear. As the alien turned toward him, eyes glowing softly, and smiled again, knew one thing. His life on this planet had just begun, and it would never be the same again. The first few days with Lyra were difficult. Woke up in the alien quarters, surrounded by walls that shimmered with a soft golden glow. Everything here was elegant, strange, and entirely unfamiliar. The bed he slept on seemed almost alive, adjusting to his weight, but it still felt alien to him. Every sound, every light, every scent was new, and his mind never seemed to rest. Lyra entered each morning with the same graceful ease, her presence both calming and intimidating. "Good morning," she said softly, her voice carrying a musical rhythm he couldn't understand fully but somehow found comforting. "Today we will continue your lessons." "Lessons?" rubbed his eyes. "I didn't sign up for lessons in whatever this is." Lyra smiled, a gentle curve of her lips. "Life here is different, human. We do not live as you do. To survive, to belong, you must understand us." And so the days passed. Lyra guided him through the alien city, showing him the ways of her people. They practiced language, strange clicks and tones that rolled across his tongue awkwardly. They learned to move through crowds without drawing attention, to bow subtly at the right times, and to respond to unspoken signals. Stumbled constantly. He tripped on the glowing streets, mispronounced words, and often misunderstood gestures. Each mistake brought a flush of embarrassment that he couldn't hide. He felt clumsy, weak, out of place. But Lyra never scolded him. She only smiled patiently, corrected him gently, and sometimes, when she thought he wasn't looking, her eyes softened with what suspected might be genuine care. One evening, as they walked along a bridge that curved high above the city lights, finally spoke. "I don't understand. I feel like I'm failing at everything. I can't keep up with you, with your people, with myself." His voice was low, almost broken. Lyra's glowing hand brushed against his arm, steadying him. She said softly, "You are human. You carry your own strength, but it is different from ours. You do not fail by being human. You fail only if you stop trying." Her words sank into him like sunlight through clouds. He wanted to believe her, but the fear and doubt still clung to him. He didn't know if he could truly belong here, in this world that seemed impossible at the side of someone as perfect as Lyra. The nights were worse. Alone in the glowing chambers, his mind replayed every mistake, every awkward moment. He missed Earth, the familiar smells, the comfort of gravity that didn't hum, the quiet of night without alien lights poolsing overhead. He wondered if he had made a mistake by coming here, if he would ever be able to meet the expectations set before him. But Lyra was always there, waiting patiently, never pushing too hard, never letting him feel lost. She shared stories of her people, their history, their customs, and sometimes personal memories that seemed rare and precious. Slowly began to notice small details. The way she paused when he tripped, how she hummed quietly when he practiced the language incorrectly, and the way her eyes held a softness he hadn't expected. One night they sat on the edge of a balcony overlooking the glowing city, shivered in the alien night air, his heart racing with frustration and longing. "I don't know if I can do this," he admitted. "I don't know if I can ever be enough." Lyra leaned close, her hand brushing his shoulder. "Enough? You do not need to be enough for us. You need only to be yourself. That is more than enough." For the first time, felt a small flicker of hope. He realized that perhaps he didn't need to become like them, perfect in every way. Perhaps his strength as a human, the way he felt deeply, the way he persisted even when afraid, was what mattered most. And as Lyra looked at him, her glowing eyes patient and kind, he felt a connection that was fragile but real. Something in the world of light and alien perfection seemed to bend around them, creating a space just for the two of them. Didn't know what the future held. He didn't know if he could truly belong here or if he could meet the expectations that had been set for him. But for the first time, he didn't feel completely alone. And in that moment, standing beside Lyra, a human in an alien world, he understood something crucial. Even in the most unfamiliar places, even among the most alien people, he could find a place where he mattered. And maybe, just maybe, he could learn to matter to someone else as well. The days passed, each one a careful dance of learning and adapting. Followed Lyra everywhere, shadowing her like a clumsy reflection of her elegance. Yet, despite his awkwardness, he began to notice details about her that were easy to miss at first glance. The way her fingers hovered just above surfaces as if she could feel the energy of the world, the soft hum of her voice when she spoke to the city lights, and the way her eyes flickered when she smiled. One evening, after a particularly long day of lessons and trials, Lyra led him to a quiet balcony overlooking the alien city. The towers glowed in every shade of gold and violet, and the streets below pulsed gently, as if breathing. Felt the unfamiliar warmth of the city sink into him, and for the first time he didn't feel quite so small. "I don't understand," admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "How can someone feel so familiar so right after only a few days?" Lyra turned to him, eyes shining softly in the alien light. "Humans feel deeply. That is why we are drawn to you. You carry emotions like fire. They are strong, they are real, and they are beautiful." His heart thudded hard in his chest. The words caught him off guard, igniting a strange warmth he had never felt in his life. I don't know if I can feel the same way. I've never been close to anyone like this, not even close." Lyra stepped closer, her presence overwhelming in its quiet intensity. "Then start with me," she said softly, almost a whisper. "We do not rush, we learn together, step by step. You are not alone in this." His breath caught. He wanted to speak, to argue, but the words stuck in his throat. Instead, he simply looked at her, the alien city glowing behind her, and felt something shift inside him. A spark, small, fragile, but undeniable, had taken root. They spent the evening there, talking quietly, sharing stories of home and dreams. Found himself laughing softly at her observations, realizing that despite the differences, their emotions often mirrored each other. And when he caught her gaze, lingering a moment too long, he felt a flutter in his chest that made him dizzy. But it wasn't easy. Fear and doubt gnawed at him constantly. Could he really belong here in this world so far from Earth? Could he really trust someone who was assigned to him, no matter how kind or beautiful she was? That night lay awake in his quarters, staring at the soft glow of the walls. He thought about Lyra, her gentle patience, her unexpected humor, the way she had reached out when he felt lost. And he realized something important. It didn't matter if this connection had been assigned, official, or even strange. What mattered was how he felt in her presence. He remembered the warmth of her hand when she guided him, the subtle encouragement in her words, the way she seemed to understand the parts of him that he didn't even know were fragile. And for the first time since arriving, he felt hope, a real, trembling, powerful hope, that maybe he could belong here, not just as a visitor, but as someone who mattered. The next day, during another lesson, stumbled again, mispronouncing a series of alien clicks and gestures. Frustration surged through him. He clenched his fists, ready to give up. But Lyra didn't scold him. She placed her hand lightly on his shoulder, her eyes steady. "You are human," she said. "Your strength is not in perfection. It is in persistence, in heart, in courage. Look at yourself honestly. You are trying. That is enough for me." Her words struck him deeply. He looked at her, truly looked at her, and felt a surge of emotion he had never anticipated. Something warm and tender bloomed in his chest. He wanted to trust her, to rely on her, to let himself feel what he had been too afraid to name. The spark between them had grown into a small flame, fragile, yes, but alive. Realized that connection was not just about being assigned a partner. It was about understanding, patience, and choice. And for the first time, he felt the faint but undeniable pull of attraction, not just to her beauty, but to her presence, her kindness, and the way she made him feel like he could survive this strange, alien world. As the twin moons rose over the glowing towers that night, and Lyra stood side by side, looking out over the city, their hands brushed lightly and this time did not pull away. For the first time, he allowed himself to feel the spark fully, to feel that he might not only survive here, but find something extraordinary along the way. The City of Light had become both mesmerizing and exhausting for. Every corner, every street pulsed with energy that seemed alive, yet he still felt like an outsider. Every step with Lyra reminded him of how much he didn't understand, how much he had to learn, and how fragile he felt in this alien world. Lyra noticed his unease. "You are tense today," she said softly, her glowing hand brushing his arm as they walked along the curving streets. "Why?" I don't know if I can do this," admitted, frustration lacing his voice. "I'm supposed to adapt quickly, follow your ways, understand your people, and I keep failing. I feel useless sometimes." Lyra paused and looked at him, her luminous eyes steady and unflinching. "You are human," she said, "and you feel deeply. That is your strength, not your weakness. You fail only if you give up. You have not given up yet." Her words should have comforted him, but instead, they made him even more aware of his limitations. The council had warned him about the upcoming trial, a test that would show whether he could truly belong here. The thought of failing, of disappointing not only Lyra but also the alien people who trusted him, made his stomach twist. One evening, after a long day of lessons, left the training chamber and walked alone into the glowing gardens. The plants shimmered with colors he couldn't name, and soft hums of energy filled the air. He needed space, needed to think, to breathe. Lyra found him there, quietly stepping beside him. "You cannot run from yourself," she said gently. "I feel like I'm not enough," admitted, his voice cracking. "I'm supposed to be strong to keep up, to make this work, but every day I mess up. What if I fail and we are separated forever?" Lyra's hand reached for his again, firm and warm. "Then we face it together. If you stumble, I will help you. If you are afraid, I will hold your hand. You are not alone, never alone." For a moment he wanted to believe her. He wanted to let go of the fear and just trust. But doubt clawed at him, making his chest tight, his thoughts heavy. Could he really rely on her? Could he really trust someone who had been assigned to him by custom and tradition? They walked in silence for a while, the city's glow reflecting softly in their eyes. His mind raced with memories of failure, of missteps, of awkwardness in lessons. Yet every time he glanced at Lyra, her patient smile reminded him that he was not failing entirely. She saw more in him than he saw in himself. Finally, he stopped and faced her. I don't want to let you down," he said, voice trembling. "I don't want to disappoint anyone, but I keep making mistakes." Lyra stepped closer, her eyes locking onto his. "Human, listen to me. You have already proven more courage than most. You came to an alien world alone, you faced fear every day, and yet you keep moving forward. That is not failure, that is strength." Felt a lump in his throat. Her words were not just comforting, they were true. He had survived more than he had believed possible, and she had been there beside him, guiding him, encouraging him, never judging. That night, as they stood together under the soft glow of the twin moons, realized something new. His fear was still there, but it no longer controlled him. He could feel a bond with Lyra that went beyond assignment or obligation, a bond built on trust, shared struggle, and small moments of understanding. He reached for her hand, this time not hesitating. I want to try," he said quietly. "I want to face it with you." Lyra smiled, a gentle curve that seemed to light up the night. "Then we will face it together," she said. "No matter what comes, no matter how hard, we face it together." Felt a spark ignite inside him, a warmth that chased away the fear for a moment. It wasn't just hope, it was courage, and it came from knowing that he did not have to face the unknown alone. He could stumble, he could fail, but with Lyra by his side, he could rise again. For the first time, the alien city didn't feel so overwhelming. It didn't feel so impossible. Because somewhere deep inside knew that together, he and Lyra could face anything, strange customs, impossible tests, or even the fears he carried inside. And as they walked back through the glowing streets, hands brushing and hearts quietly racing, he realized that the spark he had felt before was growing. It was no longer just fascination or fear, it was connection. And that connection, fragile as it was beginning to feel like home. The day of the trial arrived faster than it expected. The council's chambers loomed above him, walls glowing with patterns that shifted like liquid light. He felt small, nervous, and painfully aware of the weight on his shoulders. This trial would decide if he truly belonged in their world, or if he would be sent away, separated from Lyra forever. Lyra squeezed his hand gently. "Remember, I am here. Whatever happens, we face it together." He nodded, though his stomach churned. Together. The word repeated in his mind like a lifeline. He had been terrified of failing, but now, with her hand in his, he felt a fragile thread of courage weaving through his fear. The chamber shifted around them suddenly, the floor dissolving into nothingness. Felt his stomach drop as darkness and cold swallowed him. Shapes moved in the void, twisted reflections of his memories, distorted fears he hadn't dared to think about. He saw his home on Earth destroyed, his friends helpless, and himself powerless, unable to act. Panic surged, and he almost let go of Lyra's hand. "Focus on me," Lyra's voice rang through the void, calm but urgent. Her glow pierced the darkness and clutched her hand with all his strength. "You are not alone, do not let fear control you." He breathed deeply, trying to steady himself. The darkness seemed endless, but her presence was a constant, like a warm light in his chest. He began to see that the shapes of his fears were illusions, exaggerations of what he imagined. He was stronger than they suggested. They moved together hand in hand, navigating the ever-changing void. Every time a shadow tried to pull him down, Lyra's glow strengthened, guiding him, anchoring him. He stumbled, yes, but she steadied him. He faltered, but she encouraged him. Slowly, the terrifying visions began to fade, replaced by soft light, warmth, and the sense of connection he had built with her over days. At one point, he almost gave up. A wave of despair washed over him, threatening to drown him in memories of failure, loneliness, and fear. But Lyra's voice broke through, soft and unwavering. "You are human. That is your strength. Feel it. Trust me." Clenched his fists, drew a deep breath, and focused not on the fear, but on the bond between them. The gentle pressure of her hand, the calm in her voice, the understanding in her eyes. He realized then that he had survived more than he thought possible, not because he was perfect, but because he was willing to rely on someone who cared. Slowly, the darkness melted away. Shapes dissolved, cold air warmed, and light returned. When finally opened his eyes, he and Lyra were standing in the chamber again, surrounded by the council. Their hands were still entwined, fingers pressed together tightly, hearts pounding. The council members nodded, murmuring quietly among themselves. The trial was over. They had passed. Sneeze felt weak, and he sank to the floor briefly, overwhelmed. Lyra knelt beside him, her hand resting on his shoulder. "See, you are stronger than you think," she said softly. "Not because you never failed, but because you never gave up." Tears pricked his eyes, not from pain, but from relief, from gratitude, from the quiet realization of what he had accomplished. He had faced his deepest fears in an alien world, with an alien being who had become something much more than a guide, someone who believed in him, even when he didn't believe in himself. He looked at Lyra, and for the first time he felt truly understood. "Thank you," he whispered, "for staying, for guiding, for believing in me." Lyra smiled, a warm, radiant expression that made the trials, the fear, the exhaustion all worth it. "You did this. I only held the light. You did the walking. You faced yourself. That is why you succeeded." For the first time since he arrived, felt a deep sense of belonging. He was human, yes, imperfect, clumsy, fearful, but also strong, courageous, and capable of more than he had imagined. And standing beside Lyra, he knew he had found not only a partner assigned by tradition, but a companion, a friend, and perhaps something even deeper. As they left the chamber together, hands still intertwined, realized that trials would come again, challenges would rise, but now he had something unshakable: trust. Trust in himself, trust in Lyra, and trust in the connection that had grown between them, fragile but unbreakable. The alien city stretched before them, glowing and endless, but for the first time did not feel small. He felt alive, capable, and ready for whatever came next, because he was not alone. After the trial, the alien city seemed less overwhelming, too. Its glowing streets and towering spires no longer intimidated him. Instead, they felt like part of the world he was beginning to belong to. Yet more than the city itself, it was Lyra who made him feel grounded. She was no longer just a guide or assigned partner. She was someone he wanted to understand, someone whose presence he sought even in the quiet moments. One evening, they walked along a quiet bridge that stretched above the glowing streets. The hum of the city below was gentle, almost musical, and the soft light of the twin moons reflected in the curves of alien towers. Felt his hand brush against hers, and this time he did not pull away. Instead, he let himself feel the warmth, the steady pulse of her presence beside him. "Do you ever feel afraid?" asked quietly, glancing at her. Lyra tilted her head, her glowing eyes softening. "Of course. Even we who seem so confident feel fear, but fear is not weakness. It is proof that we care, that we are alive. And you have courage because you face it even when you are afraid." Swallowed hard. "I still feel like I'm out of place here, like I don't belong, but when I'm with you I feel something else, like I might belong after all." Her smile was gentle, almost tender. "That feeling is real, it is connection. It does not matter that you are human or that I am not. What matters is that we are here together, sharing it." They walked in silence for a while, hands brushing occasionally, hearts quietly sinking to the rhythm of the city. Realized how much he had come to rely on her presence, not just to guide him, but to calm him, to inspire him, to make him feel capable of more than he had imagined. Finally, they reached a quiet balcony overlooking the city's central plaza. The lights below shimmered like a sea of stars, and the hum of the city felt like a lullaby. Lyra leaned against the railing and stood beside her, his chest tightening with emotion he couldn't fully name. "I'm not sure how to say this," admitted, voice low, "but I feel like I've never met anyone like you. Even if this assignment is tradition, I feel like it's more than that. I feel connection, real connection." Lyra's eyes softened and she reached out, placing a hand lightly on his shoulder. "I feel it too," she said quietly. "I was assigned to you, yes, but I did not choose to ignore it. I chose to learn, to understand, and now I choose you. Every day I choose to be beside you." His chest tightened. The words were simple, but the weight behind them struck him deeply. No one had ever chosen him like this before, looked at him with patience and care, and made him feel seen. He wanted to speak, to respond, but words failed him. Lyra noticed, and her hand slipped into his. "You don't have to say anything," she whispered. "Just feel it, that is enough." For a long moment they stood together, hands intertwined, looking at the glowing city. Felt a warmth he had never known, a sense of trust and safety that made the world feel less alien. He realized that he could face fear, trials, and uncertainty as long as he had her beside him. I trust you," he finally said, his voice low but steady. "Not just as a guide, but as someone who matters to me." Lyra's smile widened, radiant and genuine. "And I trust you. You are human, and yet your heart is strong. You are capable of more than you know, and I will be here with you every step of the way." Exhaled slowly, a mix of relief, joy, and something deeper, something that felt like the first stirrings of love. He had faced fear, trials, and self-doubt, and now he realized that what he had built with Lyra was something rare: mutual understanding, trust, and care. As the twin moons bathed them in silver light, felt something shift within him. He didn't need to pretend to be perfect, didn't need to hide his fear or awkwardness. Lyra had seen all of him, and still, she had chosen to be here, to connect, to trust him. And in that quiet moment, surrounded by the alien city but held together by something deeply human, understood something vital. Connection, trust, and love were not bound by species or tradition. They were born in the courage to face fear, the patience to understand, and the willingness to choose each other. For the first time in this alien world, felt completely, undeniably at home. Months had passed since first arrived in the alien city. He had learned the ways of Lyra's people, adapted to their customs, and faced trials that once seemed impossible. But more than that, he had learned about himself, his courage, his resilience, and the strength that came from connection. And through it all, Lyra had been there, a constant light in a world that had once felt overwhelming and alien. That evening they returned to the balcony where had first admitted his fear, where Lyra had first offered her trust. The city stretched below them, glowing and alive, but for the first time did not feel small. He felt part of it. He felt strong, and he felt whole. Lyra leaned against the railing, her eyes reflecting the lights below. "Do you remember the first night?" she asked softly. Smiled, his heart tightening with memory. "I remember," he said. "I was terrified, everything was strange. I didn't know if I could survive, let alone belong." "And yet here you are," Lyra said, turning to face him. "Stronger than you believed. Human, yes, but capable of more than any of us expected. You have proven yourself, not just in skill or courage, but in heart." Felt a warmth in his chest that made him catch his breath. "I didn't do it alone," he said quietly. "You guided me, trusted me, and helped me believe in myself." Lyra stepped closer, her hand brushing his. "And I didn't do it alone either. You showed me what it means to connect, to trust, to care deeply. You taught me that humans are extraordinary." He blinked, startled. She was smiling, but her eyes were serious, full of meaning. "Extraordinary?" he asked. "Yes," she said, pressing her hand over his. "Not because you are strong in the ways we are or perfect in our customs, but because you are human. Your emotions, your heart, your courage, these things are rare. These things are remarkable, and I have chosen you, always." His throat tightened. He had never been chosen like this before, never felt so seen, so valued. He reached for her hand with both of his, holding it tightly. "I choose you too," he said, his voice steady despite the fluttering in his chest. Not because I have to, not because it's required, but because I want to, because I care, because you make me stronger, braver, and better. Lyra's smile widened, radiant and glowing in the light of the twin moons. She stepped closer until their foreheads touched lightly. "Then we are together," she whispered. "No matter what comes, we face it side by side." Exhaled slowly, a mixture of relief and joy washing over him. The city hummed below, the alien lights flickering gently, but all he could feel was the warmth of her presence, the certainty of their connection. For the first time, he understood what it meant to belong, not just to a place, but to another being, to a bond forged through trust, courage, and choice. They stood like that for a long time, hands entwined, hearts quietly sinking, watching the city breathe. Realized that he had grown, not only in strength, but in understanding. He had come to this alien world as a stranger, unsure of himself and his place. Now he was a part of something bigger, a shared life, a shared trust, and a connection that transcended worlds. "Do you ever think about Earth?" Lyra asked softly. "Sometimes," said, smiling faintly. "But I don't miss it the way I thought I would. This here, with you, it feels like home. And I've realized that home isn't a place, it's the people we care about. It's trust, love, and connection." Lyra's eyes glimmered with unspoken emotion. "Then let us be home for each other," she said. Nodded, his heart full. He had faced fear, failure, and doubt, but he had survived, grown, and found something extraordinary. Humanity, he realized, was not defined by strength or technology alone. It was defined by heart, courage, and the willingness to connect, even across the stars. As the twin moons rose higher and bathed them in silver light, and Lyra stood side by side, holding hands, their hearts beating in quiet harmony. The alien city stretched endlessly before them, but for the first time it did not feel alien. It was a world of possibilities, a place where a human could belong, thrive, and even inspire hope. And knew, deep in his chest, that no matter the challenges ahead, he and Lyra would face them together, because they had chosen each other. And that choice, he realized, was the strongest force in the universe. In that moment, surrounded by light, trust, and the quiet promise of tomorrow, understood something profound. Humans could shine in any world, and love, true, brave, trusting love, was what made them extraordinary.